So I'm not gonna lie, this video is a difficult subject to talk about because there's so much emotion and differing views and opinions about this. But I do believe that it is something that is needed to think about and needed to discuss. And if you haven't heard this anywhere else, then I hope that this video can shed light and truth and hope and a plan for you if you are stuck in a toxic relationship. My name is Kimberly Holmes. I'm the CEO at Marriage Helper. And at Marriage Helper, we have worked with thousands and thousands of people, marriages, helping them to move forward from the terrible place that they've been stuck in and have a better marriage than ever before. We talk about hard things. We talk about things that you need to know for whatever situation your marriage is in. So be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel where you can see hundreds of free videos and you'll be notified every week as we release new ones. You can get notified of all of those things when you subscribe. So be sure to do that and hit the bell so that you'll get notified every time and every minute something releases that is new. As I said, this conversation is a really difficult one to have. And as I was looking through it and preparing for it and going through really understanding what is it that other people say about toxic relationships and what is it that from a clinical perspective we see as toxic relationships. You may or may not know, depending on whether you've seen other videos here on the YouTube channel, that I do have my master's in psychology, and I was also trained as a marriage and family therapist. And I'm also starting my PhD in psychology as well. And so I approach a lot of this from the clinical perspective of things. And what really is frustrating, and one of the reasons I believe that this conversation is so difficult to have, is because everyone has a different view and definition of what a toxic relationship is. So a lot of people online, on YouTube, on whatever, they start talking about toxic relationships, and some of the things that they use to describe it is they say, well, it's a relationship where you can't agree on things, where there's passive aggressive behavior, or it's where you're unable to resolve conflict, or it's where one person or both people are taking a record of wrongs and holding grudges against each other. Or they might even say it's where one person in the relationship has stopped giving any effort into working on the marriage. Or they might even say it's where one person or both people have started to avoid having conflict at all because they don't know how to solve it. And while those are not healthy things for a relationship, and those aren't the way that you should have to live in a marriage, those aren't toxic. If you look at the very definition of the word toxic in just overall, the word toxic means poisonous. It means this is something that if you eat it or ingest it, it will kill you. So while the things that I mentioned before, they aren't great, they're more like, I flavored my food with something that I don't like the taste of, but it can be fixed. It's not going to kill me. If it continues on, it might be something that becomes toxic if it's addressed and added with some other things to it. But just the way that it is now, it's not good, but it's not poisonous. And I hope that you understand that there's a delineation here. And the reason that I'm even wanting to say this and point this out is because you are the only person who can make the decision and come to the realization of whether or not you are in a toxic relationship. I believe that it waters down actual toxic relationships to put those previous definitions that I said before on it. A toxic relationship, from a professional point of view, a toxic relationship is an abusive relationship. Whether you're being abused physically, verbally, or emotionally. And what I always recommend people do if they wonder if they are being abused is to get help immediately. I recommend that you go to thehotline.org. That is the Center for National Domestic Violence, and it has a ton of resources, quizzes, articles that you can go through to understand what abuse is and what you can do to get help and to get safe if you are in an abusive relationship. If you are being harmed physically, if words are being used towards you that you are becoming emotionally damaged, if you are scared, in the relationship that you are in, if you live in fear of whether or not your partner might get angry and blow up at you again, if you're being controlled financially, if you're being isolated, if you're being put in a situation where you feel like your rights, your freedoms are being taken away from you, and that you have to do what your partner wants you to do in order to stay safe, get help. And get it immediately. I understand that when people are in abusive relationships, it can be scarier to leave that relationship than to stay. And this is where the conversation becomes hard, because I want to tell you to get help, but at the end of the day, I can't get that help for you. Only you can make that step. But I really encourage you to do so. You should not have to live in a situation like that. You should not have to succumb to anyone's orders of you in order to feel loved or valued. But you do have to take a step in order to get help. And there's ways, you can find it on thehotline.org. There's ways to do that will be safest for you, but you have to get safe. So there is a difference in how some people talk about toxic relationships. Neither of them are good, but one of them is worse, as I've said. If you're in a relationship where you are fighting and you can't seem to compromise, where it does seem like one or both of you have stopped having or putting effort into it, then again, like I said, that's not good, but there is help for that. If you don't yet feel like you need to flee from being physically, verbally, or emotionally abused, then you might want to take the word toxic out of how you're defining your relationship. Now, again, I'm not telling you the situation that you're in because I don't know. I'm simply giving you guidelines to think about. And I encourage you, even if you are in one of the situations I talked about before, where there is passive aggressive behavior, you are avoiding conflict, but you still feel like your relationship is abusive and that it's harmful to you, then I still encourage you and recommend that you go to thehotline.org, or you go see a counselor, or you call a pastor. You find someone who will help you get safe. That's the bottom line. If you're in a toxic relationship, get safe. Nothing is worth your safety. Nothing is worth your health more than getting safe. After you get safe, then after you're safe and protected, we can talk about and you can start thinking about what you want to do about the relationship, but only after you get safe. Please hear me. I can't make this decision for you. I can't assess your relationship for you, but I encourage you to get professional help immediately. For you, for your children, for whatever you need, get help. Get safe. Then we can work on you. There can still be hope for your relationship, but you can't assess that right now. You have to get safe first. So go to the Center for Domestic Violence. They have a phone number that you can call. They have a website you can go to. Thehotline.org is where you can find more information about that. Please get safe. After that, if there's any way we can help you, we would love to. And you can find out more of how we can do that at marriagehelper.com.